Welcome again to Tees Valley Business's EU and International Trade podcast. This is a series of short podcasts brought to you by the EU Trade Support Team with the aim of solving some of the key issues that local businesses are facing when they're trading within the EU. As in each episode, we will be tackling the topic over the next 10 to 15 minutes. To help shed some light on the topic, I'll be asking the questions, and today, with the tough job of answering them, it's our Ben Bradford. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm very well, thanks, Shani. Happy to be back answering questions for you.
It's good to have you back. So this week, you've picked to discuss rules of origin. Why was that?
I have, yeah, that's right. I think just feel really it's a conversation that we're having very often with local businesses. In terms of trading with the EU, I think people heard headlines around Christmas last year about this free trade agreement, and I think it's this point about free trade which makes the rules of origin such an important topic. So what I'm hoping we can demonstrate, like you said, over the next 10 minutes or so, is what the rules of origin are, how they tie into the idea of preferential tariff rates, how a business satisfies the rules of origin, and what information they need to provide to claim the preferential tariff rate. And hopefully we can really take them through that journey.
Okay, so if I stop you there, you've already made reference to the free trade agreement, by which I assume you mean the trade and cooperation agreement between the UK and EU.
Yeah, that's the one.
So how does the trade agreement, free trade and the rules of origin all tie in together?
Okay, yeah, so when discussing trade between the UK and the EU, like you said, it really boils down to that trade and cooperation agreement, the TCA. Now, generally, moving away from the TCA for a minute, within international trade, you have to pay a customs duty when the goods are imported into free circulation in the destination country. Now, the TCA is obviously a form of a free trade agreement. Now, with free trade agreements, what you get, and with the TCA in particular, is sections and multiple pages which outline when a preferential tariff rate can be applied. So a preferential tariff rate is something which allows you to pay a reduced or even a 0% tariff rather than the original tariff amount. And it's the rules on when a business can apply the preferential tariff rate. They're what are referred to as the rules of origin. Now, if you satisfy the rules of origin, you can find yourself paying a reduced or even 0 rate customs duty on the imports, and that's regardless of the value of that importation. If you fail to meet the rules of origin, then you may be left paying a customs duty sum.
Right, okay. So I see how all that ties in, and in my head, the important point we're actually making is to make sure that you meet the rules of origin. Now, that's simple enough to do. Is there one standard?
Unfortunately, it's probably not quite that simple. There isn't just one simple question that business needs to ask themselves when working out the origin of the goods. Regardless of your product, unfortunately, you can't just ask yourself the same question. In general terms, if the goods are manufactured or sufficiently processed in the EU before being shipped directly to the UK, then the goods can rely on preferential tariff rate. And likewise, obviously, if the goods were manufactured or sufficiently processed in the UK before being shipped direct to the EU, again, you can rely on the preferential tariff rate. Like I said, though, that is speaking generally, in general terms, for the exact eligibility criteria for your product and how to judge how high the bar is set, I suppose, you would need to use your commodity code.
Commodity codes, I know that's something we've discussed before, but how can it help in this situation?
We have. We discussed it, I think, in a previous podcast in which we explained how the commodity code will clarify what duty is payable for your goods. So I think first things first, if you check the duty rate and find that it is 0% when you import into the UK, regardless of where your goods originate from, then it's pretty pointless trying to satisfy the rules of origin to prove they were EU originating. I mean, you can't gain anything because there's already 0% duty to be paid. If, however, a duty rate is payable, then the commodity code comes in handy because it outlines the product-specific rules for that product in order for you to be able to claim the preferential tariff rate. Now, that information originally comes from the TCA. You can now find it in the government's trade tariff, the UK global tariff. You can find it in the Check How to Export service. But ultimately, if you understand and you know your commodity code, then it will tell you the product-specific information on what you need to do, what you need to satisfy in order to claim the preferential tariff rate.
So, thinking about it now, I want to export a tennis racket to Spain. I use the Check How to Export service. I find for this particular product that the standard duty rate is 4.7%. So I want to see if I can claim the preferential duty rate, which would reduce the duty to 0%.
Mm-hmm.
I check the information under the basic rules section and I see it gives me 2 ways in which I can satisfy the rules of origin. Do I get to pick which way, or do I need to satisfy them both?
Yeah, you see, that right there is an important point. There are different rules which businesses can satisfy. Unfortunately, we can't go through every rule, but I think depending on your product, businesses might find that there's only 1 or 2 rules which they actually need to understand due to the products that they produce or manufacture or buy. Now, going back to your question, in some cases there is only 1 rule, so obviously you need to satisfy that rule in order to claim preferential tariff rate. But in other situations, like that tennis racket, there may be 2 or even 3 separate rules listed. Now, the important thing to consider, important thing to look out for, is the use of the wording. So if they use the word "or" between the different rules, then you can pick which one works best for you. Alternatively, if they use the word "and", then that means you've got to satisfy both rules. So that's really important to understand, that it can have a big impact on the amount of work and compliance and what you need to do as a business in order to prove the rules of origin.
Okay, so I think I'm happy with that now, but I'm thinking, if I'm a local business, I need to know how to claim the preferential tariff rate. How do I make customs aware when the goods are being imported?
So, under the TCA, there are 2 different ways in which this can be done. Firstly, using a statement on origin, which puts the onus on the exporter, or importer's knowledge, which I think, as it implies, puts the onus on the importer. Now, generally speaking, I think most businesses we speak to use a statement on origin. So in those circumstances, what businesses are doing, we find, is they're including the statement on origin on their commercial invoice. Now, if they wish, they can put it on a different document as long as it sufficiently describes the goods. But I think commercial invoice makes the most sense, and that's what we're seeing the most of. Now, the statement itself is only a couple of sentences long. Again, you can find it word for word in the TCA on page 482. But again, gov.uk have that word in as well. But like I said, it's only a couple of sentences with 4 or 5 footnotes. It's really not that onerous on the business. While we're talking about the commercial invoice, though, I think it's important that businesses remember that they should always include the country of origin and the correct commodity code for each entry on that commercial invoice, and then, if applicable, put the statement on origin on there as well. It's really important.
You know what, Ben? I can tell you're having fun right now, but I'm going to stop you there. As you said at the beginning, we wanted to help people to understand what the rules of origin are, how they tie into the idea of preferential tariff rate, how a business satisfies the rules of origin, and what information they need to provide to claim the preferential tariff rate. And I think you've done a splendid job on doing that.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that we've flown over some large topics there, and I'm sure Ben would agree that if anybody needs any further support on rules of origin or wishes for a more in-depth chat on any of the points today, then please get in touch.
Yeah, I totally agree, Shawnee. We are a free service for businesses within the Tees Valley area, and as you said, we're on hand not to only discuss the rules of origin, but any areas of trading with the EU, which may have changed since the 1st of January 2021, but also the changes that are coming up.
Yeah, and there's so many ways in which a business can contact our team. You can access support from our helpline by calling 01642 662 778, Alternatively, you can contact us via email at EUBusinessSupport@teesvalley-ca.gov.uk, where we will be able to answer any queries and, if necessary, book a telephone or Teams appointment so we can discuss any issues in more detail. All that's left for me to do is to say thank you very much to Ben for his help today. I hope that businesses have found this discussion as useful as I did, and I'm sure you'll be joining me again on a future podcast.
No worries, Shawnee. My pleasure. I'm glad you thought it was useful. I hope the listener did as well. And you always know that I'm available if you need me.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone for listening. Please keep a lookout on the Tees Valley Business website, which is www.teesvalleybusiness.com, for any future events, podcasts or webinars which we might have previously ran or are hosting in the near future. That's all from us today. Thank you for listening and goodbye.
Goodbye.